Did you know that ticket prices can actually go down right before the game? That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time tracks ticket prices in real time from thousands of trusted sellers, then shows you all the best deals. So we can get tickets at the last minute for up to 60% off. Download Game Time now.
And welcome into the Cam Rogers Show on this Wednesday, January 31st, 2018, the last month of January, of course. I am Cam Rogers. Check me out on Twitter, at Mr. Rogers99. We love breaking news here on the program. We had some on Monday with Tom Brady cutting his interview short with WEEI. We got some breaking news this morning, and it's a developing story that we are continuing to follow. The Kansas City Chiefs have dealt Alex Smith to the Washington Redskins to be their next franchise, we'll put that in air quotes, quarterback. It's a 4-year extension for Alex Smith, $94 million, $71 million guaranteed. And so the Redskins are going to get a third-round pick, and Kendall Fuller, that'd be the Chiefs that would get the third-round pick, and Kendall Fuller there. Kendall Fuller, by the way, a fantastic slot corner this season. So a big-time corner goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs as well get a third-rounder. So, Alex Smith, what is the deal with him? Well, he had pretty solid numbers. In fact, a career year last season was very good throwing the ball deep. Had actually his best career passer rating on deep throws. The Chiefs saved $17 million in salary cap space by parting ways with Alex Smith. And the situation here is that it's the Patrick Mahomes era now, right? Kansas City, you had the feeling that they were going to get rid of Alex Smith at some point in time. And so the deal will be officially cemented today. Fuller, by the way, that cornerback that has been dealt to Kansas City, the 6th-ranked corner according to Pro Football Focus this season. So really a solid year for him. And he initially didn't realize he got traded. We'll show you those tweets in a minute here. But the Redskins are giving Smith that 4-year deal worth $94 million, $71 guaranteed. Smith's contract was set to expire after the 2018 season, so you had a feeling that the end was near. Smith will be making roughly $23.5 million a year, which would, of course, be cheaper on a year-to-year basis compared to if you were to franchise tag Kirk Cousins, which would have been around $34.5 million, something like that. So in terms of on the surface, monetarily speaking, it's cheaper to have Alex Smith. But did the Redskins get better? Well, Kendall Fuller, of course, well, he was a little confused at first. He took to Twitter, said, "I am safe. I didn't get traded." Well, Kendall eventually realized that he did get traded, and here's the follow-up tweet. You know, that gif with Homer Simpson as he kind of disappears into the hedge there? Yeah, so, look, it seems as though players always tend to be the last to realize that they got traded. Kendall Fuller, no exception there. And, of course, this blew up the internet because it was a blockbuster trade in the NFL, something we normally don't see. So Greg Rosenthal of NFL.com would have never expected Washington and Jacksonville to be out of the running for Cousins by January 31st. Very interesting at that because, of course, the Redskins, well, they're going to be letting Cousins walk. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars, well, the reports are that they are settling with Blake Bortles in 2018. So those two teams out of the running for Cousins. Bryce Harper, the face of the Nationals, chimed in, "Maybe I'm crazy, but how do you get rid of Kirk Cousins? Isn't he good, like really good? Just a thought, hashtag DC. Well, Bryce, you better get used to one Alex Smith playing in your area. And then RG3, because why not? Somehow, some way, they will blame this on me. No doubt. And RG3, perhaps a future quarterback for the XFL, chiming in there. All right, so obviously a big-time deal. And with Smith heading to Washington now, that means Kirk Cousins is likely to test the free agent market. And honestly, guys, I wouldn't be shocked if Kirk Cousins becomes the highest paid player in NFL history. And oh, by the way, as you see that little note there at the bottom, the Browns reportedly tried and failed to get Alex Smith because, well, they are the Cleveland Browns, and this is what tends to happen. They tend to fail on these sort of deals. So Smith in 2017, let's take a look at the stats here. Over 4,000 yards passing, 26 touchdowns, and a league-best 104.7 quarterback rating. And it was interesting because you look at the recent statements made by Alex Smith on the Dan Patrick Show, more specifically, saying, quote, "I've been playing long enough. I've been through this before, the trade deal, so I'm not naive to it. This is a crazy business. A lot of crazy stuff can happen. We'll see." So a little foreshadowing there from Alex Smith on the Dan Patrick Show. And if you just look at the comparisons here, Washington Post had a great little story about this, comparing Kirk Cousins and Alex Smith since Kirk became the Redskins starter back in 2015. So the numbers here, completion percentage, starkly similar, 67%. Yards passing, Kirk eclipses Alex by a couple thousand yards. Touchdowns, Kirk has 81, Smith 61. Interceptions, Cousins with 36, Alex Smith with 20. How about the passer rating, though? 97.5 for Kirk Cousins. These are numbers since 2015, by the way. Alex Smith, 97.2. So the numbers are eerily similar. And Alex Smith, of course, has gotten better throwing the football deep. And ESPN uses their total quarterback rating. They had Alex Smith as the 7th most valuable passer last season with a number of 61.8, which essentially means his team would be expected to win about 62% of the time, given that level of performance for Alex Smith. Meanwhile, Kirk Cousins was ranked 15th with 52.4. So if you're going by QBR here, Alex Smith is the better quarterback. But if you're looking at a longer sample size since 2015, you have perhaps Kirk Cousins as the better quarterback, at least in terms of yards, in terms of passer rating marginally, and also in terms of touchdowns thrown. So in the grand scheme of things here, the Chiefs are ready for Patrick Mahomes. But for the Washington Redskins, it is a very head-scratcher kind of move because Kirk Cousins is 29 years old. Alex Smith is 33. And I understand this is perhaps the cheaper route if you're the Washington Redskins because you didn't want to give Kirk Cousins a long-term deal for some reason. And perhaps the Redskins are buying into this 2017 campaign that Alex Smith had. But even still, it's kind of like making you look to the side of your eyes. Like, what is going on here with the Washington Redskins? I texted my cousin this morning, a lifelong Redskins fan, and he comes back to me with the most Redskins play of all time, going out and getting Alex Smith to be their next quarterback. And in terms of the offense for Washington, it's not like they have these fantastic pieces on the outside, right? Jamison Crowder was a disappointment. Terrell Pryor was a huge disappointment. Dotson showed some promise. Jordan Reed couldn't stay healthy. So there are these situations here on the offensive side that may not gel well with Alex Smith. They didn't work well with Kirk Cousins. What makes you think Alex Smith is going to, improve all that much? Smith had the luxury of a fantastic running back in Kareem Hunt, and he had Tyreek Hill down the field and Travis Kelce. It's a bit of a downgrade for Smith coming across the country and now playing for the Washington Redskins. Now, in terms of the ceiling, Alex Smith is a divisional round playoff ceiling type of quarterback. He can't take you to the AFC Championship game. He sure as heck can't take you to the Super Bowl. And so I actually have more faith in Patrick Mahomes taking the Kansas City Chiefs to a Super Bowl before Alex Smith does. And I say that because I don't think Alex Smith will ever take a team to a Super Bowl, and I am confident that Patrick Mahomes one day will take the Kansas City Chiefs to the big dance in the final game there. So for Washington, I am just not sure what they are doing here. And by the way, Kirk Cousins is going to make a ton of money out of this. And I'm going to give you guys a few destinations here in a few moments. But give me your reaction. Are the Redskins better off with Alex Smith than Kirk Cousins? And, I'm going to guess that the majority of all of your reactions as you tune into the Cam Rogers Show right now are going to be leaning towards, no, the Redskins are not better off with Alex Smith rather than Kirk Cousins. The whole Kirk Cousins front office Washington Redskins situation was very odd. They were not very talkative about long-term deals and during the negotiations and all that. It almost seemed like the Redskins were just like, all right, we'll kick the can down the road for another year. We'll franchise tag Kirk, and then we'll worry about it at another point. Kirk Cousins got the franchise tag twice, and he sure as heck did not want it a third time. And perhaps that had something to do with this trade. Now, reports are that Kirk Cousins and the Washington Redskins leadership had not been in communication at all since the end of the season. So this is essentially news to everybody outside the Chiefs and the Washington Redskins' respective front offices, right? I mean, I'm sure Kirk Cousins was caught off guard, and I'm sure he's actually thanking his lucky stars because now he knows that he's going to be a highly paid quarterback out there. And you see some destinations there at the bottom of your screen: Jets, Broncos, Cardinals. I'll actually count you guys down from number 5 to number 1 in terms of the most likely destinations. But the big-time deal, Alex Smith traded to the Washington Redskins. Smith going to Washington. Kirk Cousins set to test free agency. And the Chiefs get a third-round pick, as well as Kendall Fuller, the fantastic slot corner there, formerly of the Washington Redskins. And the Redskins are set to get a third-round pick as compensation for the 2019 draft when Cousins signs with someone in free agency there. So kind of a wash in terms of the third-round pick situation. But Kendall Fuller and Marcus Peters are going to be big-time corners next season for the Kansas City Chiefs. So that is the developing story right now, ladies and gentlemen. I'll get to my top 5 destinations for Kirk Cousins, but we let you know. The Cam Rogers Show here today is presented by the Game Time app. Get up to 60% off all those last-minute sports tickets, concert tickets, theater tickets, and so much more. Chatsports.com/tickets is the website to let you download that fantastic app. Many thanks to Game Time for sponsoring the Cam Rogers Show here today. And we thank you for coming along for the ride. Be sure to throw in your comments. I've got the broadcast on my laptop right now. I'll be tracking what you say. But let's get into my top 5 destinations for Kirk Cousins. Let's start off with the Buffalo Bills. They have plenty of draft capital to play with here if they do want to go out and try to grab Kirk Cousins via trade. Now, the Buffalo Bills, for some reason, hate Tyrod Taylor, and for a game, loved Nathan Peterman, and we know that Nathan Peterman is a lifelong backup quarterback at best. So for Buffalo, they have a few decisions to make in terms of free agency. Kyle Williams is going to be a free agent. They would be crazy to let him walk. Jordan Matthews will be a free agent as well. Sharice Wright, Brandon Tate, the list goes on. But for Buffalo here, they have an opportunity to grab a Kirk Cousins and actually be even more competitive in the AFC East than they were last season. And the overall offensive pieces here for Buffalo, you know, they're not going to scare any opposing defense here. But you do have Kelvin Benjamin there on the outside, a good offensive line, especially in run blocking. You have LaShawn McCoy, and Kirk Cousins is not a quarterback that can throw the football 45 times and be an effective quarterback. He's not a Tom Brady, he's not an Aaron Rodgers, or even a Ben Roethlisberger. But a good run game, i.e. LaShawn McCoy and Mike Tolbert, if he re-signs with the Buffalo Bills, could pave the way for a successful season. So we put the Buffalo Bills here because, you know, I don't know if Tyrod Taylor is going to be on this roster come 2018. And a lot of Buffalo Bills fans out there kind of want that new era at the quarterback position. And I could see a Kirk Cousins potentially being the quarterback there for the Bills. Not as likely as some other teams as I go through the list here. But like I said, a lot of draft capital for the Buffalo Bills to play with here. And for Kirk Cousins, surely going to test the free agent market and see what he can do. And I think the Buffalo Bills would be crazy to not at least give it a look. So there they are at number 5. We'll stay in the AFC East here for number 4. The New York Jets. Now, they have no answer at quarterback on the current roster. And something to note here, the whole Jeremy Bates offensive coordinator connection. It's kind of a stretch here if you really want to block it all out. But hear me out here. Jeremy Bates, he learned under Mike Shanahan in Denver when Bates worked out there from 2006 to 2008. And then Shanahan, of course, became the Washington Redskins head coach at one point. And Kirk Cousins has recently talked very positively of Jeremy Bates. And perhaps there is something there. And honestly, I believe that third point here. I believe the Jets would turn into an 8-win team at worst if Kirk Cousins were to go to the Big Apple and play for the Jets. And the Jets, of course, have to, you know, do their fair share of diligence in the free agent market and all that. They have some decisions to make, and they have a young defense that I think is promising. Look, I don't think Josh McCown is the answer. He played effectively in 2017, but at the end of the day, you're not going to give this guy a long-term deal. So, like I said, some big pricey targets here that the Jets are going to have to address here in free agency. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Demario Davis, Mo Claiborne as well at the corner position. So the Jets, not in an awful salary cap situation either. In fact, many of these teams are in a relatively solid salary cap situation. If you want to go in terms of rankings here, the Jets have the 4th most cap space projected for 2018. Talked about the Buffalo Bills, and they're not in an awful situation. Middle of the pack, $29 million in terms of projected cap space. But this team has a lot of cap space. The Cleveland Browns, like I mentioned, they made a run at Alex Smith, according to reports, and obviously did not pan out. So the Cleveland Browns, they have the 2nd most salary cap space, according to overthecap.com, second to only the San Francisco 49ers, who, of course, have their quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo. So the Browns, they want their franchise quarterback. How many times have we said that? Cousins would get paid big time if the Browns were to really make a run at Kirk Cousins. And the Browns also have a ton of draft capital as well. They have several picks in the 1st and 2nd rounds, respectively. As you see right there, 2 first-rounders and 3 second-round picks. So the Cleveland Browns, I mean, look, if you want to make money, sure, that would be a good destination for Kirk Cousins. If you want to win, though, it's going to take some time. I am confident that the Cleveland Browns will turn into a winning team in the next few years, and I know Kirk Cousins wants the, shall we say, security as a quarterback, right? He wants that long-term deal. That's why perhaps he got traded from Washington, because the Redskins didn't want to give him that long-term security. So if Kirk Cousins is willing to be patient here, the Cleveland Browns have a solid defense that I think is going to wreak havoc as we go further into future seasons here in the NFL. And with Josh Gordon there at the wide receiver position, of course, the Browns do have to make a decision here with Gordon because he, of course, is a free agent. But for the Browns here and Kirk Cousins, this would be a waiting game kind of situation because Browns fans, of course, would be very excited if the Browns were to get Kirk Cousins. But it's a wait-and-see kind of deal because I think, if Kirk does go to this team, it'd probably be a 5-win, 6-win, 7-win team at the ceiling at most. But in the following years, it could be even better. Like I mentioned, the defense for the Cleveland Browns. We got McCourty there at the corner position, had a very solid season. Shelton and, of course, Myles Garrett on that front line. And Schobert played solidly at linebacker, at the middle linebacker position. According to Pro Football Focus, big-time improvement from 2016. 48.8 grade in 2016, 77.4 grade in 2017. So a big-time improvement there on the defense. So for Cleveland, it's a lot of cap space. Kirk Cousins would get paid. Is it the best destination? No, that's why I have them at 3. Number 2, the Arizona Cardinals. So they have a big-time decision to make at quarterback. Blaine Gabbert, a free agent. Matt Barkley, a free agent. And Carson Palmer, retired. I think the Arizona Cardinals would be wise to go out and grab a Kirk Cousins. The Cardinals don't have the best salary cap situation among the teams that I am talking about here. In fact, they're quite far down. They have $8 million, roughly, in projected cap space for 2018. But Steve Wilkes, the head coach there for Arizona, has said he is going to be very, shall we say, aggressive as he looks at free agency and a future quarterback there in the Big Toaster. Now, a few weeks ago, I actually projected Case Keenum to be the next quarterback there for the Arizona Cardinals. It could get even better if the Cardinals were to grab Kirk Cousins. Now, like I said, the Cardinals are going to have to do some restructuring here, perhaps a couple of salary cap cuts to free up some room for Kirk Cousins. But at the end of the day, the Cardinals would be very wise to bring in this quarterback here. They went 8-8 this season with turnover after turnover at quarterback, and also injuries to that defense and the offensive line. The offensive line was in a rough shape in 2017. And oh, by the way, David Johnson's coming back. So, yeah, think about that. Kirk Cousins and David Johnson as a quarterback to RB duo there. I think it makes a lot of sense. But like I said, the Cardinals have some financial decisions to make here in terms of freeing up cap space. So there are the Arizona Cardinals at number 2. Number 1, my top destination for Kirk Cousins, the Denver Broncos. Do not underestimate John Elway and the big-time splashes that he makes in free agency, especially at the quarterback position. You all may recall Peyton Manning. They went on to win a Super Bowl with him in Super Bowl 50. So I think this is the best option for winning if you're Kirk Cousins. For winning, right? May not be the best option in terms of making money, but the Broncos have a championship-caliber defense. They have decisions to make in their secondary with Roby and Aqib Talib, etc. They're not going to be able to afford their top 3 corners, I don't think. Chris Harris, that third guy there. So may have to make a decision in terms of one of those corners to let them walk. But if the Broncos were to get Kirk Cousins here, I think it would be huge, and especially if they attack the offensive line via the draft. So they get a better offensive line going into 2018. They have their quarterback in Kirk Cousins. They run the football effectively with C.J. Anderson. It keeps that defense refreshed and at a championship level, because it wasn't last year because it was constantly on the field. This, in my eyes, is the best destination for Kirk Cousins, at least in terms of getting a ring. So what team should sign Kirk Cousins? Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to throw in your thoughts. So I have the Buffalo Bills, the New York Jets, the Cleveland Browns, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Denver Broncos as my top 5 destinations, counting down from 5 to 1, for Kirk Cousins to play quarterback. So a blockbuster deal, ladies and gentlemen. Alex Smith headed to the Washington Redskins. The Chiefs have their quarterback and Patrick Mahomes. They get a 3rd rounder, and they get a corner and Kendall Fuller. There you go, the developing story overnight across the National Football League. And be sure to throw in your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen, about which team out there should grab Kirk Cousins. This is the Cam Rogers Show, joined by Tom Downey, our mock draft analyst, right here, right now. Tom, big-time story. I'll give you a little soapbox to give your reaction.
Well, we're going to talk more about this on NFL Daily tonight. I don't know what the Redskins are doing. I just don't understand. Like, I can sum it up in 2 words for you guys. But why? Why?
A lot of gifts out there.
Why would you get older at quarterback without really upgrading and give up a really good young cornerback? I feel bad for Redskins fans.
Questionable move at best.
Almost as questionable as this Joe Flacco jersey that you continue to stick in front of me every time I come on the show.
I know. I got to throw something else up there,
yeah,
because I don't want to get roasted every time I get a guest here. All right, let's turn into the mock draft, my man. You have a fresh list for post-Senior Bowl, and we'll see if this trade has any effects on your list here.
It's not going to affect this list, but I think what ends up happening with Kirk Cousins will have drastic impacts. I mean, how many teams you just mentioned there? The Browns, the Broncos, and Jets are all in the top 10 range. If they get Cousins, they're obviously not going to go quarterback.
Right. Absolutely. Let's get into it. Number 1 overall, the Cleveland Browns. After an 0-16 campaign, Tom, you've got Josh Rosen there at quarterback, still the same from a couple weeks ago.
If the Browns go out and get a veteran, be it an A.J. McCarron or someone along those lines, I thought they were going to be in the mix for Alex Smith. That's where I think maybe someone like Sam Darnold makes more sense. But if the Browns spend the number 1 overall pick on a quarterback and they want him to be ready to start and not be like, oh, we're swinging for the upside side of things, you go with Josh Rosen. Like, Rosen is just a better quarterback overall than Sam Darnold right now. And I've asked this before, and I still haven't had a great answer come back to me, is what does Sam Darnold do on the field that is better than Josh Rosen? It's not the accuracy. It's not the mechanics by any means. Rosen has really, really good mechanics.
Pocket presence?
Not really. Like, Darnold and Rosen, maybe they're kind of similar in that regard, but Rosen is more accurate. He makes way less turnovers. The knocks on Rosen are going to come from off-the-field stuff because, you know, Rosen is a bit of a quirky guy, and I think there's going to be some more rumblings, which haven't really been verified by anyone outside of the Twitter draft Nick stuff, that, oh, Rosen might not be the best leader. He might only, I think I saw one knock from an anonymous scout that said Rosen wants to use football to make money.
God.
Well, duh. Like, of course he does. Like, what? Well, yeah. Like, that's not a bad thing. Like, money is a very good motivator, especially when you want to get paid again and again and again. So I know there are some leadership and concerns, but as long as that surgically repaired shoulder checks out, Rosen makes more sense than Darnold. Like, it's not really even all that close to me.
I saw this argument in YouTube comments, so
mistake number one.
You can only
Never
put
read
so much credibility to this. Josh Rosen is not a cold weather quarterback.
Wait. So Sam Darnold is?
That's what I'm saying.
They're both from California.
I don't know.
I guess
Josh
you can,
Allen, maybe.
Okay, cool. Well, Josh Allen isn't accurate. We'll talk more about him. Like, okay, I guess I get it, but like, I'm not gonna swing my stock one way or another because, oh, you know what? I don't know if he can handle the cold weather. Like, you can put sleeves on. He'll be fine.
I thought it would give you a good laugh.
It did give me a good laugh. Thank you for that.
All right, so there's Rosen at number 1 overall. Selecting number 2 overall, the New York Giants. You got Sam Darnold, quarterback out of USC. Nothing changed 1 and 2 here, Tom.
I've mentioned this to you before. Darnold is not a polished product. He's still very raw as a prospect. And I think the big knock on him, he turns the ball over a lot. Like, Darnold is not a guy who's going to be ready to step in day one and play, and he's got to have some refinement to his game. And that's why I think he's a perfect option to sit and learn for a year behind Eli Manning. But between Rosen and Darnold, Darnold's got a second-round grade for me. Rosen has a first-round grade. But we know Darnold and Rosen are both going to go very high in this year's draft.
An opportunity for Darnold to learn underneath Eli Manning and then go from there.
That's a really good fit there. And I think we like to believe that talent will always shine through no matter what. But fit matters. And I think Darnold and the Giants is a really good fit. I think Darnold will have a very good long-term career if he goes to New York.
Pat Shermer, pretty darn good coach, too.
He made Case Keenum look really good.
I
want to see what he can do with Darnold.
All right, so there's Sam Darnold, number 2 overall. Let's check in with number 3 overall, the Indianapolis Colts. And you have the Colts addressing the interior of that offensive line. And you got Quenton Nelson there, guard for Notre Dame.
I'm going to go back and forth here on Quenton Nelson and Bradley Chubb because with Nelson, I think he might be a better overall prospect. I think there's a real argument that Nelson is actually a better pure prospect than Bradley Chubb if you go ahead and you ignore the positional value, because Chubb is a really good edge rusher. I think the Colts could try and address that need elsewhere in the NFL draft. But with Nelson overall, I think he'd be a better prospect than Zach Martin coming out. I think he'd be able to give you that type of player early and often, and he'd be a huge addition for the Colts there up front, and he'd be able to upgrade that defensive line quickly or the offensive line for the Colts. He'd be a big fit there for the Colts. And I'm going to go back and forth between Chubb and Nelson throughout here.
All right, we're fixing that graphic there for you, ladies and gentlemen. There he is, Quenton Nelson. And for the Colts here, they have a lot of cap space, Tom. Here's what I think they should do. I think they should grab Quenton there and then grab Andrew Norwell. You got Ryan Kelly returning at center. I mean, they have to prioritize Andrew Luck and his health.
I do, and I'll mention this now, Cam. I didn't project this because I don't know if it's actually going to end up happening. I would not be surprised at all if you see the Colts trade down out of the number 3 overall spot. If teams like Denver, the Jets, the Bills, the Cardinals don't end up with a guy like Kirk Cousins and they have to wait and they don't get that big name quarterback and they end up getting more of a stopgap option, the Colts are going to be like, hey, who wants number 3 overall pick? We'll trade it. They'll trade down and they can still get a Bradley Chubb, a Quenton Nelson, or even a Saquon Barkley. And I'll tease this now. One of those guys is going to fall. Like, especially if we see the quarterbacks go early like we think they will, one of those talented players will slide down the NFL draft boards.
Okay, so there's Quenton Nelson at number 3 overall. Mike McGlinchey, his teammate, does he make the first round, do you think?
I think he does, but I don't think he's going to go till later in the first round because I have some real concerns about McGlinchey's ability to handle speed at the next level.
Okay, all right, so there's
That's
Quenton.
Not good for an offensive tackle, as we've seen with guys like Eric Flowers.
Yeah, definitely not. Nelson goes number 3 overall. Let's check in with number 4 overall in the 2018 NFL Draft. And thanks to the Houston Texans, it's the Cleveland Browns yet again. You have them grabbing Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Couple different routes they could go here. I think in the end they're going to focus on the secondary with a guy like Minkah Fitzpatrick. Or I think they could really look at a halfback and go out and get a guy like Saquon Barkley. I think for the Browns, knowing they've got those 2 early second-round picks, hold off on that. Get your running back in round 2 because it's better, I think, to end up with the number 1 DB and let's just say the number 3 defensive back, or the number 1 defensive back, as opposed to getting the number 1 halfback and the number 3 DB. The positional value just outweighs that there. I like Minkah Fitzpatrick a lot. He kind of played all over the defense for Alabama. I think for Cleveland, maybe his best fit is actually as a free safety. You move Jabril Peppers down to strong safety, and you have the building blocks for a really good and talented young secondary. He can also play corner, though, I think.
Watch out for this defense. I'm telling you.
It's a really good young defense once Greg Williams stops having his guys play 10 yards off the ball every snap. It'll be good.
That's a good point. Hey, by the way, and I wanted to mention this at the first pick, if the Browns do grab Kirk Cousins, what do you do at number 1 overall now?
Again, I think you try and you shop that pick pretty heavily.
Yeah.
I think you're like, all right, who wants this? And I think you go to teams like Denver and the Jets and maybe even the Giants, like, hey, we'll move it. Or I think maybe you sit there and you go, okay, cool, Minkah, Barkley in some order. Done. Wrap it up. Exactly. There we go.
All right, fair enough.
Heck of a group right there.
Okay, so the Cleveland Browns picking 4 overall thanks to the Houston Texans. Minkah Fitzpatrick there at number 4. Let's go to number 5, a team that perhaps could grab Kirk Cousins, but you were assuming they don't, at least in terms of this pick. You have them grabbing Baker Mayfield.
Look, Denver can afford Kirk Cousins. They got to kind of be creative with the cap space, and honestly, I think I'd rather have Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield is the best quarterback in this year's class. The main knock on him is his attitude, which oh no, he's cocky, like so is Aaron Rodgers. I'm really not going to hold that against Baker Mayfield. And now there are some concerns about some of the off-field stuff. He had that arrest last offseason before this year started. That's going to have to be cleared out from a background side of things. But if Baker Mayfield was 6'3", I don't think we'd be having this discussion as to whether or not Josh Allen or Sam Darnold should go number 1 overall, because it would be Baker Mayfield. I am a huge fan of Baker Mayfield. The accuracy is there. The arm strength is there. I think the leadership is definitely there. His teammates are going to love him. Now, the opposing team is going to hate him, but I don't think that's a big deal in the end. So if I'm Denver, I draft Baker Mayfield. Maybe you go out and sign a guy like a Case Keenum even to have a 1-year stopgap option. But I think Baker, when it's all said and done, as long as he goes to a solid spot, is going to be the best quarterback that comes out of this year's class. I really, really like Mayfield.
You know what's interesting? What if the Broncos go ahead and get Baker Mayfield, as you have here, and then sign Josh McCown?
Sure.
You know, I mean, why not?
I like it. I think McCown, maybe you don't even play him. Maybe Baker.
Perhaps not.
I would not be surprised if wherever Baker goes, he starts before the year's end, because I really like Baker Mayfield, and you put him on a team like Denver, it's a really good defense right there, and I think Denver is right back in the playoff mix. Okay,
so the Denver Broncos picking number 5 overall. Let's get to number 6 overall. The New York Jets. They're going to be in the running for Kirk Cousins. And you've got Josh Allen in the top 6. This must kill you.
I feel bad for myself, and I feel bad for Jets fans, because I really do think that Josh Allen, unfortunately, is going to go earlier than he absolutely should in the NFL draft. I think he's going to end up going in the top 10, unless one of the teams you discussed, the Browns, the Broncos, or the Jets, get a Kirk Cousins. If they get a Case Keenum type, then, well, they're still going to look into this. But I think what you'll see happen is somewhere around this range, maybe even at 7 or 8 or somewhere in that range, you'll see Josh Allen go off the board because either A, the Jets will take him, or Denver would take him, or you'll see a team like the Cardinals. I was going to say Redskins, but they've now got Alex Smith. A team like the Chargers, or maybe even a dark horse team like the Dolphins, which I think is a bit of unlikely, making a move up to get Josh Allen, because NFL teams adore Josh Allen, because he can make the throws that like Aaron Rodgers, Dan Marino, and like a handful of other quarterbacks can actually make. Allen has the upside to be the best quarterback in the NFL.
So he could be a highlight reel.
His highlight reel, you put it together, he looks like, oh my God, this dude is amazing. But then you put together the low light reel, and it's like, why would we ever draft him? Yeah. So it's a matter of balancing the player that you think Josh Allen can be versus what he is right now, which frankly isn't that good. Like, Allen was not accurate at Wyoming. And more often than not, there are some exceptions. You don't see quarterbacks who couldn't complete 56% at Wyoming or at any college level end up being good NFL players. And that was not just like he improved as the year went on, like maybe a Lamar Jackson did, or like a Jay Cutler did coming out of Vanderbilt. Allen was who he was last year and this year. Now, his talent level did go down this year around Wyoming. He lost some NFL players. But aren't you supposed to elevate the talent around you? So Allen is going to go way higher than we think. And if he goes to the right team, I think you can see that potential rise through, and he can become the guy that NFL teams want him to be. But right now, Josh Allen is not a good player. Now, he can become a great player. He can become maybe one of the best players at the quarterback spot in the NFL. But the accuracy stuff terrifies me. I don't want to spend a top 10 pick, a first-round pick, and tie my franchise's future, my future as a coach and or as a GM, to Josh Allen. You want to take him in round 4, heck yeah, make it happen. He'd be a perfect developmental pick. But are you going to spend a top 10 pick on a developmental guy? Because that's who Josh Allen is.
You talk about accuracy. Are we talking about accuracy in the pocket, against pressure, against the blitz, on the run? Is it everything?
All of it.
Wow.
Like, Josh Allen is able to make some of these plays where he rolls out to his right. There's this play against Nebraska, which is just an incredible throw. He's rolling out to his right. He's directing traffic. He throws it off balance, and he drops this absolute dime over the shoulder of a defender right into the receiver's arm in the back of the end zone. I mean, it's an Aaron Rodgers-esque throw, and maybe Aaron is the only quarterback that can make it. Like, it is an unbelievable play. And then there are throws that it's just, there's bad decision-making. Allen is like staring down his receiver, and he airmails him by 5 yards. Or he throws it right to the defender, and it's this dichotomy of absolute brilliance to, oh my God, what are you doing? And my fear is every fifth throw is going to be an incredible throw. But it's the other 3 or 4 that really worry me. And you're not going to be able to live with those other 3 or 4 throws if they're really bad.
Hot take. The Giants trade back and they get Josh Allen.
Oh,
you know, you can see it.
Someone is going to take Josh Allen, and as you know, I think I mentioned this as in the last year's draft. I love Patrick Mahomes for the Chiefs because I think he's going to develop very well. I love Deshaun Kaiser coming out of Notre Dame. Maybe not love, but I liked him. But he went to Cleveland, and they killed him. So where you go matters, and the Jets already took one, Josh Allen and Christian Hackenberg. I think that he kind of fits their type, I guess.
Right.
So
there you go. Josh Allen to the Jets at number 6 overall. Let's go to number 7 overall. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a majorly disappointing season in 2017. They need pass rush help, and there is Bradley Chubb.
Look, if the Bucs can get Bradley Chubb, they're going to be ecstatic because it feels just a massive need for them. And if the Colts don't take Bradley Chubb, the Browns aren't going to because they're pretty set at edge rusher. I don't think Denver will because they're in a pretty good shape there and they've got bigger need. The Jets maybe could, but I think they're going to look elsewhere. So at that point, the Bucs are like, all right, nice, we got Bradley Chubb. I actually wouldn't be all that surprised if you see a team like the Bucs try and make a move up to like number 3 to ensure that they get Chubb and somebody else doesn't leapfrog them.
Really?
Because Chubb, I think, is better than the number 7 overall pick this year. He's not Myles Garrett, but if the quarterbacks go early, talented players are going to end up kind of falling down here, and that's going to benefit teams like the Bucs, like the Niners, like the Raiders, like the Bears. And I think Chubb in Tampa Bay is maybe the best prospect team fit in this year's class that I could actually see coming out.
All right.
Because it just feels a massive need. They need a 3-down edge rusher in a big, big way. Chubb would take care of that in a heartbeat. I'm a big fan of Chubb.
Buccaneers were dead last in sacks this year, so Bradley Chubb could be inserted. By the way, week 1 starter, you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so there he is at number 7 overall for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's check in with number 8 in the order, the Chicago Bears. We know what they need, a big-time wide receiver. Could Calvin Ridley be that guy?
I think it could. And if the Bears end up losing some pieces at the secondary, guys like Kyle Fuller, Prince Amukamara are free agents, then I think, corner becomes a big need for them. We'll see what happens there on that end. I think offensive line remains an area because they could cut Bobby Massey. They could spend a high pick on a guard or a tackle and upgrade that offensive line. But I don't know if Ridley's really a top 10 pick. Maybe he's kind of more of a top 15 pick.
Yeah.
But if you're the Bears, I mean, you got to get Mitchell Trubisky some weapons. Now, if I'm running the Bears, and I know I got some money to spend in free agency because you're going to cut guys like Mike Glenn, and that's going to free up even more cap space, first step I'm doing is I'm calling up Jarvis Landry and I'm saying, hey, how much do you want? All right, done. Here's an extra $1 million just because we like you that much. And then you have a perfect fit for Trubisky. And even if you get a guy like Jarvis Landry, I'm still looking at Calvin Ridley. Because Landry is a slot guy. You put Ridley there. Now you got 2 guys who are going to get open for you. You're going to make life easier on your young franchise quarterback. And you continue to head in the correct direction for a Bears franchise that I think right now is trending in the right direction.
Absolutely. Defense is, growing into a really nice unit.
Of course, the big thing for the Bears is, as is often the case, they got to get their quarterback playing at a higher level, and they got to keep him improving. And if Trubisky can be that franchise quarterback, then the Bears are in great shape.
Okay, so the Chicago Bears grabbing Calvin Ridley at number 8 overall. Let's check in with number 9 overall. We have the San Francisco 49ers, although there has to be some coin flip action here because the 49ers and Raiders are tied, but we did our own coin flip here. We got the Niners at number 9. Grabbing Saquon Barkley. How big would that be?
Be great for the Niners, and at 9, it's really good value. In my mind, Barkley is way better than the number 9 prospect in this year's draft, but if you have the quarterbacks go early, where is Barkley going to fall? Because one of these guys, Quenton Nelson, Bradley Chubb, Saquon Barkley, are going to fall if there are 4 quarterbacks. Like, there's no way that Barkley's going to find a spot. Like, somebody has to fall. that's the nature of quarterback going a little bit later than you would, or earlier than you would normally have them go. So if the Browns don't take Barkley and the Jets go quarterback, Barkley ends up kind of sliding, and maybe you can even see a team make a leap up to get him. But if you're the Niners, I know that a high running back doesn't always fit Shanahan's system, but here I think you almost have to do it. So Barkley is not as low as number 9. Maybe this is kind of his floor, barring a trade up by somebody. But I do see a scenario in which Barkley kind of slides a little bit because halfbacks aren't as highly valued as other NFL spots. And if the Jets go quarterback, if the Browns want to go DB, which I think makes more sense for them right now, all of a sudden Barkley slides and the Niners go, all right, nice.
Let's grab him.
Now we got Jimmy G. Barkley to go out and throw some money at a receiver in free agency, and they're in great shape. And all of a sudden, this is a really potent offense.
What's the comp for Saquon?
You know, I've had a tough time with this one because Barkley's a little bit different.
He's his own guy.
He is. I think I saw NFL.com comp him to Barry Sanders, which is something I thought of before. He's bigger than Barry Sanders, but he has the same like jump cut, always trying to make an extra play and make the big move. So Barkley's a little bit bigger than Barry was, and he's bigger than I think most halfbacks, but he doesn't always use his power well. Barkley tends to want to make the big play. The thing I like about Fournette and Harris, Rubenstein mentioned this to me as well, Fournette was always willing to say, you know what, they're giving me 4 yards, I'll take the 4, and then I'll go over a guy and make it 5 or 6. Barkley says, ooh, they're giving me 4. Now I'm going to try and bounce it out wide and try and make that 4 into 40, but sometimes that gets him 0. So Barkley is going to annoy you a little bit because sometimes it's like, oh, just take the yardage that they give you, but he makes up for it, and that's kind of where I think that Barry Sanders comp can come from. But he's not Barry Sanders. I don't think he's quite as dynamic, but he is going to be a 3-down back. He can offer also you return value if you want on returns, but I like Barkley a lot. I just don't know if he's quite Barry Sanders. I got to think a little bit more about my comp on that.
You know what I just thought of in terms of running backs that like just take the 4 yards? How about this name? Ben Jarvis Green Ellis.
Okay. What year is it, Cam?
I don't know, man, but I don't know why I just thought of that. But he was a guy that always just ran straight.
Yeah, he was good for 3 yards in a cloud of dust, just like Latavius Murray is.
Exactly. All right, so there's Saquon Barkley at number 9, going to the San Francisco 49ers. Finally, at number 10, the Oakland Raiders, grabbing Roquan Smith, linebacker out of Georgia.
I think this makes so much sense to me. Look, even if the Raiders bring back Navarro Bowman and put him at the middle linebacker, there is no reliable weak side linebacker for Oakland. They were playing a guy named Nicholas Mora, who no one outside of the Bay Area has heard of before, and he was a undrafted rookie free agent who did as well as you could possibly hope for an undrafted rookie starting for an NFL team. Like, meaning to say, he really wasn't all that good.
Yeah.
But you can get a guy like Roquan Smith, who I think is definitely a top 10 prospect in this year's draft, maybe even top 5, but he falls because the quarterbacks go early, because linebacker isn't always that highly valued. But the Oakland Raiders really for several years now, and this is part of GM Reggie McKenzie's scheme, I think, in terms of the way he drafts, is he prefers to not value linebackers. And in the NFL salary cap era, you can't value every position super highly. You have to go cheap in certain areas. The Giants, for example, they've gone cheap at linebacker and on the offensive line. Seattle, cheap on the offensive line before they traded for Dwayne Brown. Oakland went cheap at linebacker, and I think they kind of suffered because of it. Smith is a little bit undersized. He's not as big as you'd like, which is why I think he's a will linebacker, that weak side linebacker type, but he can fly. He is a perfect sideline-to-sideline linebacker. He's going to make a bunch of tackles for you. I think he would be a perfect fit for Oakland and a really good team positional fit. I think that this is going to be a very steady mock draft pick for me unless something happens in free agency where another team all of a sudden needs a linebacker, or if Oakland says, hey, we're going to throw money at a linebacker.
How much does it help a prospect's stock when they go ahead and play in the college football playoff and more specifically in the national championship game?
You know,
it's more tape.
It is definitely more tape, and I think NFL teams are always going to look at the full body of work. They're not going to put way too much stock in one particular game, but they are going to weight that stock. And if you're weighting a guy like Roquan Smith, you're going to more heavily weight the biggest game of the year. And Roquan Smith played very well in that game, and he played it against really good competition.
That's why I thought of it, yeah.
So I think that definitely helps Smith's stock. I think the big knock on him is again, going to be his size, but he's going to be a day one starter for you at linebacker. He's going to be a really good fit there. And I think Roquan and the Raiders almost makes too much sense, which makes me worried because sometimes when that happens, I don't know if that makes the most sense. And I will say this, when it comes to linebacker, yeah, you've got Khalil Mack and Bruce Irvin. Those are pass rushers. Those are not the middle and the weak side linebacker fit. So even though you have Khalil Mack, you need a guy that's going to fit that weak side linebacker mold.
Okay, so there's Roquan Smith going number 10 overall to the Oakland Raiders. Again, the Raiders and the 49ers will do their coin flip. That was Tom Downey, our mock draft analyst. Many thanks to him for coming along. Let's summarize his picks 1 through 10. Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, Quenton Nelson, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and Baker Mayfield going to the Denver Broncos. Josh Allen to the Jets, Bradley Chubb, a big-time need there. Edge rusher to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Calvin Ridley, wide receiver to the Bears. Saquon going to the Bay Area to play for the 49ers, and Roquan Smith for the Oakland Raiders. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a reaction poll for all of you watching right now. Which is the best quarterback in the draft? Tom Downey said Baker Mayfield. Do you agree? Give up a laughing face. Give us a heart for Josh Rosen, a like for Sam Darnold, a wow face for one Josh Allen. I see Tiffany chiming in. Green Bay should take Josh Allen. Tiffany, I don't know if Allen will actually drop that far. Mel Kiper put Josh Allen at number 1 overall in his latest or his first mock draft. So I guess he thinks Allen is the best quarterback in that kind of grouping. I'm going to have to say Baker Mayfield as well. Overall talent, I am getting into the Baker Mayfield wagon here because I used to be a big-time, big-arm, tall quarterback kind of fan, and that clearly it just does not work in the NFL, or at least we overvalue those type of attributes. So I'm not going on the Josh Allen type of train here, but I am going on the Baker Mayfield train, so I'm throwing up my laughing face for that one. Folks, throw in your reactions. We'll be tracking them live here on the Cam Rogers Show as we have another guest on the program, one Harris Rubenstein. This is 3 shows in a row. Wow. Wow face.
Wow face.
Love to see it. Our Patriots insider here. Of course, you're gearing up for the Super Bowl this Sunday, Harris.
Yeah.
And an opportunity to kind of get nostalgic because you look back and you power ranked the 5 Patriots Super Bowls on the Patriots Report.
I did, and I had so we did it on the Patriots Report. Every Monday we're gonna have another show on Friday to do a more full Super Bowl preview. But after we did the 5 Super Bowls, I did a little bit more thinking about it, and after talking to you, talking to a couple people, actually switched to the Super Bowls. So we'll get to that in a little bit.
Okay, all right. So of course we have a large sample size, all things considered, right?
The largest, actually.
Yeah.
Well,
so
at least of the 2000s.
All right, let's get to number 5 here, ladies and gentlemen. Super Bowl 39. You're calling this the forgotten Super Bowl, Harris.
It's just this was the most boring Super Bowl in terms of the actual game because Donovan McNabb threw 3 touchdowns, but also threw 3 picks. It wasn't very pretty. I just wasn't a huge fan of this Super Bowl overall. I thought it was kind of boring. I thought that Brady played well, but like Deion Branch was the Super Bowl MVP. Corey Dillon had a touchdown. It just wasn't a very exciting game. The Patriots were never really like way ahead or way behind all game. And of course the last drive was a total joke. It just didn't have the pizzazz that the other Super Bowl wins had.
It's all relative, right?
Yeah,
Because
of
we're
course.
comparing really exciting games here. So somebody's got to be last, and we're putting Super Bowl 39 last here. The Patriots victorious over the Eagles 24-21. Patriots are favored by 7 in that game, by the way.
Yeah, they were. I think it also just kind of comes down to the overall team. Like that 2004 Patriots team, people need to realize that was the best team of the original Dynasty one. So the team in 2003 was nice. The team in 2001 was the starter, but that 2004 team, they were favored to win the Super Bowl the entire year. They went 14-2. This was one of the best teams that the Patriots ever had. So if you're trying to look for the best team that the Pats have had, I say that the 2004 team, I don't know if it was better than, by the way, last year's Patriots team was not the best team they've ever had. The 2014 team was way better than them. So if the 2 best teams were 2014 and 2004, the 2004 team might have just been the best overall team they had to win a Super Bowl.
Okay, and that's why I guess they won the Super Bowl
Exactly.
there. Super Bowl 39.
14-2, like they dominated.
It was a great season, no doubt about it. So there they are at number 5. Number 4 here, Super Bowl 49. This was a game that the Patriots had no business winning because all the Seahawks had to do was run Marshawn Lynch and, well, the Patriots won.
Well, so I originally had this at number 3, and I moved them down to number 4 because after doing a little bit more analysis on it, I kind of rewatched the highlights of a lot of these games as I do before Super Bowls, and the overall game until the 4th quarter, at least for a Patriots fan, wasn't that great. Like, it was a fun game, but, you know, Brady had thrown a pick here and there. The defense wasn't playing super well. They weren't getting turnovers. It wasn't very stifling. And then all of a sudden, the fourth quarter comes around. Brady throws 2 touchdowns, and Malcolm Butler gets the interception, and then it starts to blow up. But as an overall game, as an overall win, I just don't think it had – I think the Panthers-Patriots Super Bowl as an overall game was just better. This one is just a little bit more in the – I don't want to say boring, because no Super Bowl wins ever boring, but
right.
At the same time, it's just, again, it had that one crazy play with Malcolm Butler. But before that, the first 3 quarters, it just wasn't that great.
But you had to have been very nervous in this game.
Oh, well, yes, obviously. But I'll say this much. The most important thing about that game, at least from the Patriots standpoint and the NFL standpoint as a whole, that game ruined the Seahawks. That Seahawks team was supposed to end up as a dynasty.
Right.
And the Patriots come in, they beat them in the fourth quarter, scored 2 touchdowns on the Legion of Boom, and they haven't been the same since. So just, you know, put another notch in the column of teams that, you know, the Patriots have ruined the dynasty of. I mean, the Colts with Peyton Manning were supposed to end up being a dynasty. The Pats stopped that. They stopped the Rams in the early 2000s by getting their second Super Bowl. They stopped that.
Sure.
So another notch in the old bedpost for the Patriots taking down teams.
So we showed it in the highlight package, of course. Malcolm Butler, the interception, heard around the world. You know what's interesting about that play? So have you seen Do Your Job on NFL Network? And
Damn, have I seen Do Your Job?
That's an obvious question. So Bill Belichick evidently was talking with Matt Patricia, and Matt Patricia wanted to call a timeout. And Bill Belichick says, you know what? No, we're not going to call a timeout. I see confusion from the Seahawks. And the Patriots ran that defensive play a lot in preparation for that game.
Colin Cowherd likes to say that there is no greater play that personifies what the Patriots have done over the past decade than that one play. The preparation. Malcolm Butler said in postgame, yeah, the coaches said if he plants his right foot, he's going to throw the ball. Planted the right foot, made the cut. The rest is history.
Fantastic. All right, Super Bowl 49 there at number 4. Let's get to number 3, Super Bowl 38. Is this peak Jake Delhomme, by the way?
This was peak Jake Delhomme, another peak quarterback that the Patriots struck down, i.e. Matt Ryan. But this game as a whole was so exciting. There's so many long touchdowns. Usually Muhammad at 140 yards and a touchdown. Brady was great. He threw the ball 48 times for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. Super Bowl hero Antoine Smith with 83 yards and a touchdown. Deion Branch probably should have won MVP for this Super Bowl instead of the last one, but Brady won 350 for 3 touchdowns. Look, the most important part about this game was this was one of the first times we saw early in Brady's career where he just went off. And there are a couple games throughout his history where he just dominates other teams. This was one of the first where he just walked into a Super Bowl and he was the best player on the field. And in 2001, he wasn't. You know, he's a 22-year-old, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed rookie. You know, he threw for 154 yards and a touchdown on 27 throws. But by this time, he was about to enter his prime. He was 24 years old. He was really starting to get in there. Hadn't taken a lot of hits yet because the Patriots had a great O-line the first couple years that Brady was there.
Yeah.
But he just walked onto the field. He was the best player in that Super Bowl, and he showed it. And it really kind of set the stage for the next decade or so of Brady just dominating and be the best player on the field.
Super Bowl 38 checking in at number 3 in our Patriots Super Bowl power rankings here. Number 2, it's the upset. The Rams favored by 14 in this game. Super Bowl 36, the greatest show.
It was, and this wasn't the game that Tom Brady won. Tom Brady obviously had the great fourth quarter comeback. This is the Super Bowl I always refer to. This was the Super Bowl that Bill Belichick won. So we know that Belichick obviously had the crazy defensive game plan way back in the 80s when they played the Bills, had to stop the run-and-gun offense, and he did with one of the best defensive game plans in history of football in a Super Bowl. He did it again against the St. Louis Rams, who, mind you, were the best offensive football coming into this. Going against a Patriots defense that was pretty good. It wasn't over-the-top outstanding. It had some pretty nice big-name players on it, but it by no means had any business holding the Rams to 17 points. But they had a great game plan. They were incredibly physical with Kurt Warner. They didn't let Marshall Faulk beat them with receiving out of the backfield. They didn't let Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce beat them deep down the field. They kept everything in front of them. They kept everything inside the box, and they held down one of the best offenses in NFL history. Brady did enough. He game managed the heck out of that one, 140 yards, 150 yards on 16 completions.
Right.
It was a typical Bill Belichick Super Bowl win. I think if you're looking for outstanding coaching performances, that was his. That one, and then the second half against the Seahawks were two of the best coaching performances he has had in the history of football.
That's saying a lot.
Oh, it is. And he's had plenty of them, but I don't think you'll find a better defensive game plan outside of the 86 Super Bowl or not the 86 Super Bowl against the Bills, but the game against the Rams. I don't know how you hold that team to 17 points. It was like what the Giants did in the 2007 Super Bowl, holding that Patriots team to 17 points.
Hey, you brought it up.
Hey, you got to throw credit where credit's due. It's been a decade now. We can breathe through it and accept that, third Super Bowl in 4 years.
Okay, so there is Super Bowl 36 at number 2, which means Super Bowl 51 checks in at number 1. Harris, I'm watching this with a bunch of my friends, and a few of them are Patriots fans, and just seeing the changeover in emotions as we gradually went throughout that game was unbelievable. 28-3.
I went into halftime when they were down 21-3 after Brady threw the pick six. I honestly was considering, what if this is just the end? This is just the end of the dynasty. It's over. After Brady missed that tackle, if you go watch Tom versus Time, he was like, I knew that everyone was going to remember that play for this entire Super Bowl, and I just couldn't let it happen. That second half performance by Tom Brady will go down in history as maybe the best, if not the second best individual athletic performance I've ever watched, behind only LeBron James in Game 6 of 2013 in the Eastern Conference Finals, where he dropped 48, 15, and 8 on the Boston Celtics to beat them. But what Tom Brady did against the Atlanta Falcons in the second half is just godly. I don't know if there's ever been a better overall quarterback performance in a half of football.
There was some
than
luck
what Brady
involved.
did. There was a little luck, yes, the Julian Edelman catch. But I'll put it this way: about dang time that the Patriots got a little fourth quarter catch luck, because they had the Jermaine Kearse one. The Julio Jones catch wasn't luck.
Manningham
as well. That Julio Jones catch, by the way, that will forever be forgotten. I keep saying the word forgotten, will end up being the greatest forgotten Super Bowl catch of all time, because that should have ended the game. That should have ended the game. 2 straight sacks. The Falcons are dumb. I don't know how the Patriots ended up getting to win that game. I don't get it.
All right, so there are Harris Rubenstein's rankings for the 5 Super Bowls that the Patriots have won. Good luck with your analysis this week, my man.
Thank you. I will say this, though. To quote Tom Brady, you know what Super Bowl really is the best one?
What's that?
The next one.
Oh,
The
there
next
it is. I
one.
knew you were going to say that. All right, Harris Rubenstein, I'll send you away, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have a weigh-in for the folks at home. Which Pat Super Bowl was the best? You have 5 to choose from. And if you're, feeling Tom Brady, then you can just say the next one. They, of course, take on the Philadelphia Eagles in Super Bowl 52. And that'll be going down this Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, however you want to look at it. So there you go, folks. Throw in your thoughts as we welcome you back here to the Cam Rogers Show, presented by Game Time. Head on to chatsports.com/tickets to learn more about this fantastic app, getting up to 60% off all those last-minute sports tickets. Check them out. Can get really great deals. And many thanks to Game Time for sponsoring the program here today. A final word about a historical performance on the hardwood last night. James Harden and the Houston Rockets took down the Orlando Magic 114-107. And Harden did something, shall we say, pretty darn special. Last night he earned the first 60-point triple-double in NBA history. Scored 18 points in the fourth quarter to eclipse 57 points held by one Calvin Murphy, who, by the way, works on the broadcast team. That number he scored in 1978. That broke Houston's single-game scoring record. And, by the way, Harden did not have a lot of help around him. Chris Paul didn't play due to a groin. Eric Gordon, their second-best scorer, actually got hurt with back stiffness during the game. He left that one. And so it almost set up for an all-Harden kind of affair, where he went 17 of 18 on free throws, was 19 of 30 from the floor with 5 3-pointers. And the best part is Harden had no idea that he actually made history with those 60 points and the first triple-double with that number ever. Really fantastic stuff. So James Harden, one of the purest shooters out there, by the way. Fantastic player to watch. Just mans the hardwood like I've ever seen. Really a fantastic job there by James, and congratulations on the history made. And we thank you all for tuning in to the Cam Rogers Show. By the way, get me wherever you go. You can download the Cam Rogers Show podcast version. Head on to iTunes and just search the Cam Rogers Show. You can download, subscribe, and there you have it. If you can't stay throughout the entire hour or what have you, it's a good way to get the Cam Rogers Show on the move. Many thanks for coming along for the ride here, ladies and gentlemen. If you missed any of the show, don't you worry. We will loop it, and you can keep it right here on this video for all the latest analysis with the Alex Smith trade. All right, folks, I will say goodbye. I'll see you at 10 o'clock Eastern time on Friday. Take care, everybody.